Good day and welcome back to the East Health TV. This video was created from an article on our health website. I'll drop the link to the article in the description box. After watching, please ensure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And please do come back for more. See you soon.
Hello everyone. Today we're diving into a topic that so many people deal with but is often surrounded by a lot of confusion. Polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS for short. Our whole goal here is to cut through the noise and give you some clear, straightforward answers to your biggest questions.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, what PCOS actually is. Then we'll get into how it's diagnosed. After that, we're going to bust some common myths, talk about how you can manage your health, and finally, look at what it all means for your future.
All right, let's get right into it. First things first, what even is PCOS? Let's break it down.
To start, you need to know just how common this is. About 1 in every 10 women of reproductive age has PCOS. That's a huge number. And what that really means is, if this is something you're going through, you are definitely not alone.
So at its core, PCOS is a hormonal condition. What's happening is the ovaries are producing a little too much of what are called androgens. You might have heard them called male hormones. This imbalance can mess with ovulation, your periods, and fertility. Now, we don't know the exact single cause, but it seems to be linked to a mix of things, like your genes and insulin resistance.
Okay, so we know what it is, but how do you know if you have it? Let's talk about the signs to look for and how doctors actually make a diagnosis.
This is probably the question you're asking right now. What does PCOS actually look like or feel like? What should you be on the lookout for? Well, some of the really common signs are things like irregular or even totally absent periods, maybe some extra hair on your face or body, and acne that just won't quit. Now, it's so important to remember, having one of these doesn't automatically mean it's PCOS. They're more like clues that say it might be time to chat with your doctor.
So if the symptoms are just clues, what's the official process? How does a doctor go from those clues to an actual diagnosis?
This is where the official criteria come in. It's called the Rotterdam criteria, and basically a doctor is looking for at least 2 of these 3 things. First, irregular periods. Second, signs of those high androgens we talked about, which they can see either from symptoms or from a blood test. And third, what look like polycystic ovaries on an ultrasound.
All right, this next part is a big one. There is so much misinformation about PCOS floating around out there, so let's clear the air and bust some of the biggest myths. Let's kick things off with one of the most common and honestly most harmful myths out there. Is your weight the cause of PCOS?
The answer is a hard no. Absolutely not. PCOS happens in women of all shapes and sizes, including women who are very lean. Now, while carrying extra weight can sometimes make symptoms worse, it's an influencing factor, not the root cause. And that's a really important difference.
Okay, here's another one that causes a ton of confusion. And you can see why, right? It's literally in the name of the condition. If you have cysts on your ovaries, does that mean you have PCOS?
Nope, not necessarily. And this is where the name can be kind of misleading. Remember those 3 criteria we just talked about? The cysts are just one of 3 possible puzzle pieces. In fact, some women with PCOS don't have them at all. That's why a doctor has to look at the whole picture.
Okay, so we've got the what, and we've cleared up some of the what-nots. Now let's talk about the what now. Let's shift into how you can really take charge of your health.
This is the big practical question. You get a diagnosis, and then what? What do you actually do? What does management look like?
You know, the thing about managing PCOS is there's no single magic bullet. It's really about creating a personalized plan that works for your body and your goals. For many, that starts with lifestyle stuff like diet and exercise, but it can also include medications, fertility treatments if that's a goal, or even cosmetic treatments to help with things like unwanted hair.
And speaking of lifestyle, check out this number. It might not look like much, but it is so powerful. For women with PCOS who are overweight, research shows that losing just 5 to 10% of their body weight can make a massive difference, improving periods, balancing hormones, and helping with insulin sensitivity. It just goes to show how much impact small changes can have.
For our final section, let's zoom out and talk about the future. I know there can be some really big worries that come with a PCOS diagnosis, so we're going to talk about fertility, long-term health, and hopefully give you some peace of mind.
This is often the biggest, most urgent question. It's the fear that weighs heaviest on so many people when they first get diagnosed. So let's just tackle it head on.
Let me be really clear. The answer is yes, absolutely. While PCOS is a very common reason for fertility struggles, it's also one of the most treatable. So many women with PCOS get pregnant completely naturally. And for those who need a little help, there are incredibly effective treatments out there that can make pregnancy very possible.
Okay, so beyond fertility, what about your long-term health? Is PCOS a condition that's, dangerous down the line?
It's true that PCOS is linked with a higher risk for some other health issues later on. But here is the most important part, and this is a huge but. These risks are mostly tied to PCOS that isn't being managed. By being proactive, getting regular checkups, and making healthy choices, you can dramatically lower those risks.
I want to leave you with this, because it really says everything. PCOS is common and manageable. It does not define your fertility or your future. With early diagnosis, healthy lifestyle habits, and appropriate medical care, women with PCOS can live healthy and fulfilling lives. This is just one part of your story, not the whole book.